Sador, I have a question for you. What would you say are the advantages of investing in Uzbekistan and Tashkent compared to other countries in Central Asia, such as Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, for example?
So, as I said, in Uzbekistan now, at the beginning of a big journey, and this economic growth started from low base, and exports, imports, investments, all of them are. And then when we say it started, we are at the beginning of a long-term cycle, and even though prices, for example, land has somewhat increased in Tashkent, for example, but it is still relatively below what we have in more developed markets in the region, like in Almaty, in Baku. The differentiating factor of Tashkent, Uzbekistan, from those cities is that they managed already, to go all the steps of the cycle, and they reached their peaks somewhere in 2008, 2012, and here we are now at the beginning of that curve. And the question is whether there is some elements of a bubble. I personally believe that the reasons to believe that there is no bubble is more than the reasons that there is a bubble. Meaning, the market, and here the market is not heavily financed by debt. If you look at like a construction industry, even for example in warehouses or residential, then for example mortgages or bank financing of those industrial facilities, even other segments like commercial and retail, the banking financing is a fraction. For example, in mortgage, it's around 10%. The situation, for example, in other markets like in Azerbaijan or in Kazakhstan, then banks were heavily exposed to first international debt financing, and specifically to both in the supply and demand side of construction, including in mortgages. So in those real estate markets, I would believe that in Baku and Almaty, and to some extent Bishkek, that in Uzbekistan market is not that mature. We do not believe that market has saturated. We believe that economic fundamentals are still strong. So far, private and international investors' exposure to these markets has been limited, and we think that upside is there, because we started, as I said, from low base, and we think that given the pro-business, pro-market reforms of the government, and the government's encouraging foreign private investors, I think that the growth could be even exponential. And if you look at most of the economic, even in real estate indicators, they have been growing. Not only, it's over 10%, over 20%. So both in terms of, again, economic activities, foreign trade and export, imports, production, and they are expanding very rapidly. Demand for real estate across all the segments are there. Undersupply is definitely is an issue in terms of that there should come new players. So then maybe here, and I try to be as unbiased as possible. So we've seen similar markets in the region, in other geographies like in Southeast Asia, to some extent, similar markets in MENA, Middle East and North Africa, that the situation where Uzbekistan is now, I think that we have long value creation, wealth creation cycle in the real estate sector. So I'm again objectively I'm very upbeat on this market.
That's really useful, and I think it really helps to draw the contrast by comparing it to other markets as to, the fundamentals of Uzbekistan are very different compared to those in other countries like Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. One question is, as the economy is improving, the real estate market's improving, how has the value of real estate changed? Have you seen large increases in the value in real estate? Sardor, ask you this is for you.
Yes, prices. So specifically after 2016, prices have increased. We can't say that it has increased, with skyrocketing paces, but it has increased. And there is an issue of the government is supporting. There are different segments of real estate construction and development here, and then you have government-supported programs specifically for affordable housing segment, where those initiatives are focused more on low-income and vulnerable group of people. But at the same time, on commercial side, private developers and their the real estate, residentials, commercial, and other properties, their prices have also increased. But again, because historically the supply has been limited, and there is the past 5 years tried to cover part of that pent-up demand, and 36 million population, yes, that's a strong characteristics of the market. And the cultural wise, the real estate is, I would say, the number one investment class that any average Uzbek would spend their money. So the people here, culturally, we value families, and here the culture says that every family should have independent housing, whether apartment or individual house. So the other asset classes may not have been developed in that pace, but specifically residential, real estate, like residential and commercial. The commercial is a separate story. It is extremely undersupply. I have very strong buy in commercial segment. So, but in residential, I think that prices have increased, but that has not reached its true potential as yet. So we are seeing many foreign developers, expats, repats, and then local entrepreneurs. They are spending their investments their savings and business income into real estate, because that's one of the strengths of the local buying potential of the local population, that they would prefer in investing in real estate rather than in, let's say, in capital markets, even though we are also proponents of capital markets, but we are not seeing that level of activity in capital markets versus in real estate. So again, we are upbeat on real estate. We think that strong fundamentals are there. We have not reached our true potential. Growth upside is there for many years to come.
Thank you, Sardor.